You all ready to go? So we're going to start and kick the day off with a poem from a good friend of ours, Sean Maguire. Sean has his own podcast called Out of the Bag. Check it out. He's some great guests on there. So we're going to start today with Sean, and then Sean's going to introduce our first speaker, Adri Mckenna. So warm welcome for Sean.
Cheers, thanks very much. How are you all? Good morning to you. I wasn't expecting to do this, so it's a poem that really resonates with Brian McCarthy's talk yesterday, if you all were here for Brian McCarthy's talk. And it's a very simple little ditty, and it goes like this. If the banks are criminally banging on your door, and the only crime they pin on you is the class bullshit of being poor, and the sheriffs, bailiffs and Garda are just acting corporate whores, I think it's time for a revolution. When we get together and we learn to be wise, and that system comes attacking in its varied forms of disguise, all we've got to do is never recognize. It's time for a revolution. The controllers of our nation say that economic eviction is necessary to save the banks. Can you see the contradiction? And looking after their interests seems to be their predilection. I think it's time for a revolution. They write the statutes, change the laws, they've breached our constitution. It's affecting families' homes like a form of sick pollution. And nowhere in the future do they deserve any absolution. Do you know what? I think it's time for a revolution. Thank you. And talking of revolutions, I'm hoping that Ireland will have a massive revolution soon. And our first speaker is Adrian Mckenna, and he's going to be talking about legalizing weed in Ireland.
How are you doing? Let's go. Good. Right, let's get this done. First time speaking, so I'm nervous, and any jitters are at, and just excuse them, please. Start with a little introduction to why I'm here. I'm here to legalise weed in Ireland because there's so many reasons that it needs to be legalised, and I have that list there. It's all going down, and I'm not really going to bang on too much about all of the things that it does, because most of you here know what it does at this stage, and it's more to get the point across to the people. We need this. It's come too far now, and there's too many people suffering from it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you my story of how I got to here. I'm a single father of 4 kids. I'm raising them by myself. They're living with me the past 9 months, and I ended up having to look for a different job. I was in construction, I had my own company going, and I needed a new job because I couldn't look after the kids and give them the life that they needed because I wouldn't have been there for them. So I decided that I'd set up an e-commerce business, and about 9-10 months ago I looked into all the research of this, and it said that I needed to find something that I loved. Now, I was baffled for 2-3 weeks there. I was thinking, what am I going to do? What do I love? What do I love? And it came to me that weed is the thing that I love. And after smoking many joints, I just realised, yes, this is it. This is what gets me going, and this is my new thing. So within that, anyway, I do more and more research, and I decided that cannabis was what I was going to go on. But I also seen that there was a big problem in this country because cannabis is not legal. So I was kind of baffling for about 3 or 4 weeks there. Well, if I'm going to set up a business, how can I run a business around something that's not legal? So I was kind of, will I, won't I, will I, won't I? So I said, yeah, fuck it, why not? So I went and I done it. And I set up 7 or 8 different Facebook pages to start off with, and I put out the one, Legalize Weed Ireland, and I liked that name, so I kind of stuck with that one, and I got great traction, and it built up 1,000 followers within 3 or 4 days, and then I was kind of, whoa, shit, what am I after doing here at all now? Now I'm really in it, and I'm a fool of myself if I back out now. So here I am 9 weeks later, we're on 6,300 followers, we're growing every day, and the amount of people that are out there that are suffering in silence, it just has to stop. Enough is enough. So this is why I'm here. It's, as I said, it became a business. It was a business for me at the start. All business has gone out of the question now. This is about the people of Ireland now and getting what's there. I'm going to tell you a bit about my story, and it'll give you a realisation of why I'm so depth into it. Right, I'm going to start off with myself. I'm Adrian Mckenna. I come from a village in called Kilmacow there. It's a little village just outside Waterford, and people there are absolutely brilliant. But when I was growing up, I didn't have such a great upbringing. My mother was gone when we were 5, and then it was a case, my father was raising us, but my father was out working, and he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't have any parents either, and things was just kind of really hard. So coming around the age of 7 or 8 there, we were kind of fending for ourselves, and it was just myself and my brother there, and my sisters were off doing their own thing. They were that bit older. So, you're still gone. So there we were doing our own thing anyway. And look, I started smoking at an early age of 7, which is really bad, like, you know. And then I moved on, I was smoking weed there at the age of 10, which was hash. Everyone knows it was hash back then, which I wouldn't say that hash is good for you at all. There's too many oils, and there's certain directions there, but we need to go about that conversation. But at the age of 12, I moved on to narcotics. Not a proud thing, and it was probably the worst thing I ever done in my life, and it was a bad turn for the next 20 years, say. So come 14 then, I was a regular narcotics user. I was using speed, I was using ecstasy tablets on a regular basis every weekend from about, I'd go out on a Thursday night and I'd come home on a Monday morning ready for work and go and do it all again. I'd done that for 4 years solid, and at the end of it then I was completely burnt out. I couldn't do this anymore, and I wanted a break from it. And I ended up finding a girl, and I kind of fell in love, and I had a few kids. But in the middle of having all the kids, I got wrapped up in drugs, and I got wrapped up in the criminality side of it there, something that I'm not proud of at all. And it's part of the reason why I'm here, to try and make amends for what I've done in my life. I was mixed up in the criminality side of it for 3 or 4 years, and I wasn't really taking myself. I was more involved in it there, and the poison that I seen on families throughout that few years was absolutely rotten, so it was. But for the 4 years when I was out there, I was loving doing what I was doing. I'm a bit of an entrepreneur, and I like, that was kind of my hustle. I was never really into acting before that, and it's just something that fell upon me, and I liked it, and I went with it. And I was good at it, but because the nature of the business, there's nothing to be good about it. It's not a good business. It's absolutely pain and destruction, and destroys families. So I was 3-4 years into it, and my life fell asunder. I call it my last 9 years of karma, and I've lived it, and I accept it, and I'll keep living my karma for it. Everything went bad. The business itself went to pot because a substantial amount of cash ended up disappearing on me, so it did, and I ended up finding me very close friend at the time hanging, so I did, and I went into a whack of depression myself, and I gave up selling, but I ended up using myself then, so I did, and I had a habit of about €3,000 a week, so I did, for 2 years. And I was also taking 10 Valium a day. I was taking 5 Valium in the night to put myself asleep, and I was using another 5 Valium throughout the day there just to carry me on through the day. So you can imagine that came to an awful crash, which it did. I ended up in the hospital, so I did. I strapped up to all the machines there, and wires hanging out of everywhere. And yeah, so about 5-6 weeks after that crash and burn, I ended up getting arrested at 7 o'clock in the morning and pulled out of my house in front of my kids. And it was the best but worst thing that ever happened to me, if you can understand it. I was pulled out in front of my kids, and now I had to do something about it, so I did. So later on that day, I went up for questioning and went through all of that process, and I came out that day, and there was a guard in there. There was a guard outside, and he was about 50 years of age, and he said to me, I was only 26, 27 at the time, and he said, "Young fella," he said, "we're chasing you with years, and we're absolutely coming in on you now, so we are, because you're all over the place. You're out of your mind all the time, and you're not looking after yourself, and you're careless. So here's the choices. You're going to end up dead, you're going to end up on the streets, or you're going to end up in jail." And see those 3 kids there, because my ex had come along with the 3 kids there. He said, "They're all you've got," he said. Now, you're after living a tough childhood. He said, you know what it's like out there. He said, do you want them not to have it? So that was it. Within that, at this stage, I was thinking of moving to Australia anyway, because it was 2011, we were at the height of the recession and things were so bad. People were killing themselves all the time, so they were, and people were depressed. And so I decided with that, I need to do something with my life, so I decided I was going to go to Australia. But before I went to Australia, and about 4 or 5 weeks after I'd given up all the drugs, I went to the doctor. And the doctor turned to me and he said, I think you're very depressed. Now, I was after telling the story that I just told you, so I did. Now, in my eyes, I was coming down after a long, abusive drug addiction. So he convinced me I was depressed anyway, and he got me to go on to antidepressants. So I didn't want to. I asked him at the start, I said, what's the side effects of these? And he said, well, the number one side effects is it may cause suicide. Right, so here I am baffled, saying, right, you want to give me, I just after coming down off a massive band of drugs, and you want to give me more drugs that may cause suicide. And I'm telling you, I'm feeling fucking suicidal here, like, you know? So, baffling, absolutely baffling. But because, look, it was 2011, and if you can all remember, there was people throwing themselves off that bridge every second day or every third day. It was horrendous. And the last thing I wanted to do was die, to be honest, because I had my kids to think about. So I went with him for 3 or 4 weeks. Now, I was about 4 or 5 weeks after coming down off the cocaine and Valium and everything else from beforehand. And then I was all of a sudden being put onto these things. Now, to come down off the Valium alone, I have to say, I spent about 5 or 6 weeks with my whole head crushing in, caving in, and it was the most horrible feeling I ever had in my life, so it was. And then they were after putting me onto a tablet that was doing the exact same thing. It was making it worse. It was actually gradually making it worse. So he upped me dose from 5 mil to 10 mil, telling me that that'd be better. So I went with that for another few weeks, and I went back to him and I said, look, my life's after coming to a change and I need to get out of here. I said, I need to go to Australia, I said, and fix what I've done. I said, and that's my rehab. I said, these tablets aren't working, they're making me worse. I said, I've gone back to smoking cannabis. I said, I gave up smoking cannabis 2 years before when I started taking all the other drugs. Like, what was I doing that for? So, so anyway, there I was, and he put me back onto these tablets, or he wanted me to stay on these tablets. I said, no, I'm coming off them. So I went to Australia anyway, and I brought my family with me. I went out 3 months ahead and got ready, got set up, and the family followed me out. And we stayed out there for 9-10 months, and I had to get a sponsorship in order for the family to stay out there. Now, I was coming down off years and years of drugs, and my head wasn't right, like, you know, and it was, I'm a plasterer by trade, and I ended up falling in with a carpenter over there, and I got sponsored as a carpenter. And got the kids, we got to stay there. We were delighted. Yes, new life, new beginning. And that all came crashing down then a month later when the company that we were with went into receivership. So it was a case of 28 days, find a new job or get the hell out. So pressure was on. I found a new job within the 28 days, got me sponsorship. The only thing is my wages had dropped by a third. We could no longer manage to stay there. So at that we decided to, at the same time my ex had fell pregnant with my youngest child, Jake, and it was going to cost us $15,000 to stay in the country, to have the child in the country, because we were only on a sponsorship visa, we weren't in residence, we had to pay for everything. So it was going to cost us $15,000. We said, we can't do that, we can barely scratch a few dollars together. So myself and the kids went home. I went up north, up to the mines for 6 months, and I got myself set back up, and so we could come home, because when we left to go to Australia, we sold everything. We had nothing. We were going on our last penny for all the world. Like. So when we got there, we were there for the 9 months and 10 months, and it just wasn't working, obviously. So it was time for them to go home. Now, it was the hardest thing ever. They were going home, and I was going up into the mines, and I was on my own up there. I took a drive up 1,800 kilometres, myself and my brother, just on a whim there. We had no job to go up there, but we went up there. We were there for 2 days, and we were sleeping in our car, and we were on our last penny. We had nothing, like. And we were just calling from site to site, but we ended up getting a job then, and we got accommodation with the job, and everything just fell together then after that. So I got home then anyway, and Jake was born. And from that, I decided to set up my construction business, so I did. And we stayed away from all the people that we were involved with throughout the years that were dragging us down, and I could not go back to them people. I had to avoid them at all costs. Now you can believe they came to me like fucking flies to shit there, and it was hard to get away from them. And to be honest, they still do float around from time to time, and I know where I'm at in my life now. I ain't never going back to that. And to be honest, there's a lot of my friends that are starting to follow in what I'm doing there now, and for that reason, it drives me even further. Because if I can stop young fellas, 17, 18, from doing what I'm doing, or what I done, by telling my story, isn't that a great thing? And it's not only that, it's the fact that it's helped. Anyway, no, I'm gone off it there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to, I set up my own business, and we were about 3 years in at home. And we were doing good, the business was flying and everything was looking good. And we ended up going out with some old friends of ours, and cocaine was brought back into the mix. Now, within the next few weeks and few months, my ex-partner was back with all of the old friends, and she was mixed up in everything that we were involved in for so long, and that was driving a rift between us, obviously, because I was going that way and she was going that way. And this went on for 2 years, and at the end of the 2 years I had enough. I had to leave the house because my anger was getting out of control, and the situation was absolutely horrible. It was turning into absolute toxic chaos, so it was, and it had to stop. So for the rest 2 to 3 years, which brings me up to this date, I've been in the court fighting for custody of my kids against a system that's designed for women to keep children. It's not there for men to keep children. And I see so many fellas over the past few years that have killed themselves because they can't get access to their child. And I nearly did. I ended up in Pieta House there 2 years ago, so I did. I was after having a massive panic attack at home, and I had all the suicidal thoughts, and ended up in hospital, and they advised me to go to Pieta House, and it was the best thing I ever done in my life, so it was, because I started talking for the first time in my life, which I had never done. And I would recommend it to anybody that's down low in their luck or just has enough, just to go to Pieta House. They're free and they're there to help. It was the best thing I ever done. So, I would, yeah, right. I suppose, look, while I was there and I was going through my counselling, the counsellor that I was involved with there, she said she didn't know anything about cannabis, and I was telling her I was using it as a treatment to get me through it. And she said she didn't know anything about it, but she'd seen it as a drug, and you probably shouldn't be using it, But I said, look, I know what's helping my mind. I said, I know where I've been the past few years, and I know where I'm going. And in order to do so, I need to be the one that controls it. I can't have you telling me that I can and I can't. And look, because she was really good at her job, she agreed with me. She said, 100%, if it's making you better, she said, whatever makes you better on this journey, make sure that you do what you need to do. It's about yourself. So I went through the 14 weeks with her anyway, and I came out the other end an absolute, completely changed man. And yeah, I suppose that's after giving me the confidence and the uplift in my life to come and do something like this, I suppose. And as I said, this started as a business for me just so that I could support my family over the next few years. But as I said, at the same time, it's after becoming something far bigger than that, so it is. It's when I set up the Facebook page, and I ended up talking to people around the country, and they were telling me their stories, and that some of them were telling me I was inspiring them to get up and do stuff with their life, and that feeling itself is absolutely the most amazing feeling I've ever had in my life, to be honest. And if I can help by getting more out there to stand up and talk for what's right in their life and what they need to do. Now, I suppose, look, I'm after telling you my story, so I suppose you can have an understanding of where I'm coming from and where me drive and me fire and me belly comes from on this. I'm one of the people, I'm one of the guinea pigs of the 90s and the noughties that's been through the battle of drugs, and anyone that's mixed up in drugs is obviously going to be messed up in their lives. They have got so many problems, but it leads back to all the cannabinoids in our system there that are being damaged when we're taking all the drugs. Now, I'm not going to I'll get into this more later, but the cannabinoids in the system, our system produces cannabinoids, and when we batter them with drugs, it just does not work. It shuts them off and absolutely destroys them, so it does. So, I'll kind of get into that there now. I'm going to talk about the legalization of cannabis, and that's these 10 points here. So, my number one focus here is depression, anxiety, and stress, because I've lived it and I know it. And I know I'm not the only person out there. There's so many people in this country suffering from those three items there, and it's a daily occurrence because they're the things that happen in our daily life, lads. So it is. It really is. Like, and as I said, I'm a guinea pig from the 90s and the noughties, and luckily enough, I found myself and I found a way to help myself. I'm going to tell you a little thing about receptors in the brain there and how drugs destroy them. We are all made up of cannabinoids. We have cannabinoids flowing through our body. We have them here, we have them here, we have them here, we have them all the way down through us, and we have them all down through our arms, so we do. When a heroin addict is so messed up on heroin, his receptors no longer work. Have you ever seen a junkie there that's, a bit of tear change, you can't talk properly? It's because all his receptors are completely shut down. He's not able for it. And like if you were to ask that fella there to pick up 3 boxes there and put them up on the shelves, he'd probably drop 2 of the boxes, like, you know, he just wouldn't be able for it. And it's because the cannabinoids are not being released in the receptors because the receptors are that damaged. Now, they put heroin addicts onto methadone. Methadone does not help the receptors. All it does is soothes the receptors. It takes away the fix for the next 24 hours until they get their next hit of methadone, which they're addicted to for life because they need it for the rest of their life. It's a lifetime sentence. So, when you start smoking cannabis, all the cannabinoids are now being released into your body properly, but not only that, are you getting extra cannabinoids that are now repairing the receptors on your brain, and they're actually making the addict come from someone that was solely, purely messed up there and didn't know his foot from his leg, and it's just... When he starts repairing the receptors there, he's no longer slurring. His slur is gone and his speech is getting better, and he's now able to educate himself because the receptors are now working throughout his body. So now he's up and he's walking about and he's starting to go for a few jogs and whatnot, and next thing he has a job there and he's stacking 3 boxes. And he's stacking 300 boxes and there's no bothers at all, there's no boxes falling. So he's recovered now from the cannabinoids that have recovered the receptors in his brain. Now, I know people that are on methadone the past 20 years and they're still suffering from the withdrawal, with all the problems that come with it. They say they're still numb inside, they don't feel themselves, and they need to just, they're all seeking to get off of this life sentence of morphine and or methadone, and they know that there's a cure out there within cannabis for this, and a lot of them have started to switch. Over in Canada and America there, Canada mainly, in the past 2 years, opiates have dropped by 50%. They have started switching all opiate medicines over to cannabis because it's leading the way. And not only that, cannabis has never killed one person on this planet, never once. And we're made up of cannabinoids. So I find it very strange that people won't listen to what we're talking about. And the simple science of it is that we're built up of cannabinoids. The plant produces cannabinoids. The plant is healing so many people all around the world. Like, we have it in Canada, America, Mexico, more countries in South America. It's spreading over into, we have it in Amsterdam all along, as you know. We have it in Spain, Portugal. It's moved on into Thailand, a place where you used to get your hand chopped up or locked up in jail for life. It's moved on to Australia, and it's moved on. It's spreading all around the world like the weed that it is. Can't keep it down. It's going to keep coming back, so it is, because we need it on this planet. So, I don't know, lads. It's like talking to a wall at times. Like, how could people be so stupid? Like, us, the people, are the ones that know. We're the people on the ground that are suffering every day. And the government every day are cutting us down and disallowing us. Like, this medical marijuana was approved there. There's still not one person has got any of the medicine. And when it comes to getting the medicine, it's extortion prices. You're talking 2,000 to 3,000 euros a month there just to look after yourself. It's not going to be free. It's not going to be medical card. It's not going to be any of that. From what I know, England have the biggest pharmaceutical manufacturing facility for cannabis in this world, and they're using it to extort all the people like Ireland and England and all the other countries that are now getting into it. They're planning on extorting every single one of us. We can't allow that to happen. We're the ones that have recognised that this is a medicine, and we're the ones that have to continue to recognise what it is, and we're the ones that have to continue our research. I'm not going to fool you and tell you that I know everything about cannabis. I don't know everything about cannabis. I know what I know about cannabis, and I know what I know about talking to all the people around the world, and all around Ireland. Ireland's biggest medical problem at the moment that we're facing, and we're probably facing for the next 100 years, is mental health. Now, the reason we're facing it for the next 100 years is because we know absolutely fuck all about it. We know nothing about it. We're down there. We have to go all the way up there to find it out yet. And we have to do our research. But the fact that our government will not allow us to use this as research, and we'll get locked up if we decide to use it. Well, I won't get locked up because I wouldn't allow that to happen. And I push absolutely everyone in this country to get out there and start growing 2 to 4 plants, depending on the size of your family and how many people in your family need it. It has to be done, lads. It's our job to stand up as a nation against this fucking tyranny of a government that we have. You have Leo and you have Simon up there. Every time I see them, they're on the news, they're fucking laughing. They don't care about us, lads. They don't care about us one bit. All they care about is their paycheck, and that's it. They went to college to study politics. How could you run a country after studying politics? Businessmen are supposed to run countries, because if I'm right here, we are open for business, and our economy is what keeps us going. And if we don't run our economy right, we're going to sink it to the ground, which we are doing because we're in negative equity, so we are. And how long are we going to leave it go on for, like? Baffles me, absolutely baffles me. What I'm doing is I'm organising a 420 for next April 18th there for every county in Ireland. Everyone has to turn up at their main square and stand up and unite and go out and enjoy yourself for the day. It's a protest, but it's not a march, and it's no way, we're not out there as activists shouting, we're just out to have a good time. We're out to show the people of Ireland that we are not bad people, that we can go out and we can have a 420 and we can have a few smokes and we can have a great time and we can cause no trouble, like the people that are out there drinking alcohol every day, the people that are out there taking drugs and causing anti-sociable behaviour, absolutely day in, day out on the streets. There's heroin addicts up and down that quay there all day, every day. There's dealing going on around that quay all day, every day, and the guards ignore it. The guards are going to ignore us turning up, lads. I only spoke to a guard 3-4 days ago, and I told him my situation of what I'm doing, and his reaction was, fair play to you, man. This guard arrested me before. He turned around and he said, I love it, man. I said, I love it. I said, look, I said, I'm doing this, I said, to make your job easier at the same time, I said, because you're wasting your fucking time and your resources chasing around and locking up people for smoking cannabis. You need to spend that on the narcotics. The narcotics need to be taken off the street, and I truly believe that cannabis is the biggest step we have in taking them off the street, so we are. Because now we're having an understanding of cannabis. Cannabis was always the drug that will lead you to the worst drugs. But that's madness, lies, and it's deceit, to be honest. And they've been deceiving us for the past 100 years. The way I look at it there, past 100 years is we've come on so much in the past 100 years. We were in World War there 100 years ago, and we had the English ruling us, and then we came through World War II, and then we're after coming through all the panics and all the stuff that all the bad people in the world that put on us there, like the Cold War that continues to go on all the time, and all they do is put fear and panic into us. Fear and panic, fear and panic. Now, they're putting fear and panic into us on a daily basis, so they are. And we're all suffering from depression, anxiety, and stress because of these. But the main reason we're struggling from all of these things is because of what we're putting into our bodies. Every day we're putting drink, drugs, fags, bad food, you name it. We're putting it into our body on a daily basis, and it's absolutely destroying us, and it's killing all these cannabinoids in our system. We figured it out, and nobody wants to listen yet, so they don't. MS and Parkinson's disease. You all know Michael J. Fox. We all grew up watching Back to the Future, and we all watched him, and all of a sudden, at the age of 30, he just disappeared. Michael J. Fox was gone. We were waiting for him to make more films, and we were all excited about his films that were to come, and all of a sudden, he's cut off. Where's he gone? Like, turned out he had Parkinson's disease, which is related to MS, and now he was gone. He was in a wheelchair bound, and he was getting worse, and he was getting more and more fragile throughout the day, and as the weeks went by. But he picked himself back up, so he found out about cannabis, and he done a lot of research on it, and now he's one of the main advocates for cannabis in America for Parkinson's disease. And he's up on stages now, standing up on platforms like this, and he's speaking to crowds and crowds and crowds of hundreds of thousands. Now, this is a man that was shut down. He was rolled off. We all thought he was going to be dead by now, so we did. That's what we were told back then. Now, he's here, and he's leading he's here to help us get back on our feet and make sure that people are listening, and people are listening. And he's probably one of the biggest reasons why America is listening so much, so he is. They all know him, they all loved him, they all respect him, and they all thought he was dead as well. But he came back from it, all because of cannabis. It's amazing. Epilepsy, we all know about Vera Toomey's daughter. We all know the struggle that she's after going through with that. And look, it's a proven fact there that cannabis is the only thing that can help at the moment, to be honest. And she is finding it still very hard to get. She hasn't got anything. As far as I know, she hasn't got any medicines either. Now, I may be wrong, but I'm sure she's getting it on the black market, because unfortunately this is what we all have to do, is turn to the black market. And because I was mixed up in what I was over the years, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be mixed up in the black market. I've changed myself for the better for the kids, for me kids, and to show me kids that I can be a good person and that I can be a good role model for them as such, I suppose. And this is why I'm here. It has to be done. Insomnia. I suffer with insomnia, so I do. I only got 2 hours sleep last night, and I'm going to tell you a story there of about 7 or 8 months ago. I was suffering really bad, and I was about 3 or 4 days into a part of this project, so I was, and I was really focused on it, and things were coming better and better, and things have just been growing better and better all the time. And I suppose the excitement and the fact that it's happening and it's here kind of had me on a high, and I was kind of on a rush, and I just couldn't. I was so full up with anxiety, so it was. But it was about 3-4 days in, and I got about 1 or 2 hours sleep in between those 3 to 4 days there. And I was at panic stage. I was sitting on the floor of my bedroom at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was down in a heap, and I had my head in my hands, and I was shaking over and back, and I was there. I just wanted to sleep. I just wanted to sleep. I needed to sleep. And it clicked with me. A friend of mine was after giving me a bit of paste, cannabis paste, the best stuff of all. Now, I didn't use it because I'm a smoker myself, and I'd never used it before. And it just clicked with me. I said, it's there, it's in there. So I went. Anyway, I got up from where I was, and I took a little dab of it. I put it on my tongue, and I was just playing around with it on my tongue for about 50 seconds. And I'm not lying. Within 50 seconds, I was lying down on my bed, and it was like a blanket had just come off me. It was just gone. Now, I'd been taking Valium, Xanax, all sorts of stuff throughout my years, and there's never anything give me that relief that quick. And what came after it was even better, because within the next 20 minutes, I was lying down on my bed, and I was relaxed, and I was calm, and 10 minutes later I was asleep, and I slept like a baby for a good 10 hours. And I came back, and I was revived, and I was happy, and yeah, I'm here again to tell the story, I suppose. Fights cancer cells. Now, there's no proof, and I'm not up here to tell you that it does kill cancer, because there's no proof on that, so I'm definitely not going to go out and shout about that. But I do know from a friend of mine that it does fight and reduce cancer cells. His sister got cervical cancer about 3 or 4 years ago, and she was given 6 months to live. Now, she's still alive to this day. She had a tumour in her cervix that was 120 centimetres wide, that wide, bigger than a fucking tennis ball, bigger than any ball, slitters, anything that you'd be picking up there, that size, like. And she went down the healthy diet, she went through all of that. Now, she went through chemo beforehand, and she had surgery, and she had chemo, and she had everything else. And that did help with it as well at the same time. But her brother decided to take it into his own hands and do his own research, because he wanted her to live, obviously, like, you know, so he'd done everything. So he decided to start growing himself. He doesn't smoke, nor did he ever smoke. He tried it once or twice, didn't like it. And he started growing it, and he started producing the paste and the oil for her. And within 6 months of using the paste, the tumour had reduced from 120 mil down to 60 millimetres. Now, it's 3 years in and she's still alive. She went off of the cannabis treatment there about 6 months ago because she had enough. She kind of thinks she's at the stage where she wants to put her time into her family, and she wants to spend whatever time she has left with her kids and do it without worrying and about hope and about, she just wants to set in herself. But the fact that she's still going now 3 years later, and she's given up there 6 months ago and taken this. I was talking to her brother the other day because I asked him permission to speak about this before I was going to, and he said that she's doing really, really good at the moment, and that she's just about considering going back onto the treatment for cannabis, so she is. And I pray to God that she does, and I pray to God that it works, because I pray to God I can come back up here in a year's time and tell you that this woman is still alive and that tumour is gone completely. Wouldn't that be amazing? I can't guarantee you cancer, lads. Nobody can. The research hasn't been done yet. Now, Canada will be leading the way, there's no doubt about it. They're leading the way so far, all the way anyway. And look, as I said, I can't tell you that it is going to fight cancer. There's no proof, but from what I see, a story like that cannot be ignored. Now, this is a friend of mine that I totally respect. He's a professional man, and if he was to lie, his profession would be out the window. So I trust him. So you're just going to have to trust me in that sense, because I'm up here and I'm telling you my life story, and I'm not lying to you once, like, you know, you can hear my life story in your voice there. Pain relief. Explain pain relief, because you have to hit a certain pain barrier before you're allowed medical cannabis in Ireland. That baffles me. Right, so that means you've chronic bone pains and you're suffering all the time. Yeah, now that is chronic. I'm not going to say that there's a big difference in that and having the pain in your ankle or something like that. But say for an instance, you were in an accident and they decide that they're going to put you on, you broke your leg and you're in severe pain. So they decide they're going to put you on 500 milligram of, I don't know, diazepam or whatever. I don't know. I don't follow these things, so I don't know. But they put you onto these, and you're sick all the time, and they're killing your liver. And the amount of people that I see that are in hospital with bad pain, and they end up getting addicted to these tablets, and their life falls apart, and everything goes downhill, so it does. So, as I said, explain pain barrier. What's the difference? I don't know. So, why is it that they can say that only one person with pain, only an extreme pain can get treatment? That baffles me. So I just wanted to put that out there and put that question out in the air, I suppose. Addiction, I suppose I've told you the story there about the heroin addict there and how it helped him with his addiction. And that's something we can't look past, lads, because addiction is rampant in this country. The amount of people that are taking cocaine every Saturday and Sunday night and every Friday night and every other night of the week. They're out there and they're chasing these drugs all day, every day, and that's all they think about. The fact that we have something here that can help with that, that can't be ignored either. Schizophrenia. All my life I've heard that cannabis gives people schizophrenia. And that's been the main argument with everybody. Everybody keeps telling me, no, it drives you cracked, it's bad for your brain. Of course it is. If you abuse any drug, it's bad for you. If you abuse foods, it's bad for you. If you abuse anything, it's bad for you. We all know that. Like, it's just, if you were to do too much sport, you'd burn yourself out, you'd crash and you'd burn. The body can only take so much. But with schizophrenia, they've been using this to defend their right of making it illegal over the past 100 years. It's now proven in Canada and America that it actually helps with schizophrenia. It calms down the patients and it makes them more relaxed, and it takes away the negative energy that's inside them and all the bad thoughts, and it helps them to contain and control their thoughts as one. Now, I find that amazing as well, the fact that that's been used against it for all the time, and now it's proven in Canada with research over the past 5 to 6 years that it helps with schizophrenia, but yet they're still using it in the media that it fucks up your brain and it makes you mad, like, you know. Diabetes. A friend of mine got diagnosed with diabetes there about 2 years ago. So I kind of see he got a bit of a fright at the time and he was really worried, and he was starting to think, he started to change his diet, and he was a smoker all along anyway, but he fixed his diet up completely and he's managing his diabetes now. But I didn't know that smoking helps with diabetes. I have a podcast, and a girl came on there a few weeks ago. She's 23 years of age, and she was suffering with diabetes all her life, type 1, and she was on insulin. She was on 5 shots of 80 ml insulin a day, and she was suffering with depression and anxiety and stress, and she had it from a young age of 13 to 14 there, and she'd suffered all the way throughout her teenage years with it there, and obviously lost her confidence and didn't have friends over, and she couldn't go to certain things, so she missed out on so much. So her confidence was completely shot from it there, and she decided to take it into her own hands. She was talking to a friend, and a friend put it upon her like, would you not try cannabis? So she said, I'm going to try cannabis there. So she talked to her family about it. She'd never been involved in drugs before in her life. And she talked to her family, and her family were behind them and they were backing her. So she went off and she done more research, and she ended up getting some cannabis, and she done up her own oils. She made up her own oils, and she started treating herself, and she started making butters. So what she does, she's not a smoker. She said she'd have an odd drag of a joint there the odd old time. She said she doesn't really like it because she's just not a smoker. But what she'd done is she decided she made edibles, and she learned how to control the edibles and make a balanced diet out of it. So now she's gone from 5 shots of insulin a day at 80 mils down to 3 shots of 50 mil insulin a day from her own research. Now, she went to doctors and she begged doctors, and doctors ignored her and told her that she's cracked and all the stuff that goes on out there with it. Now, it's the stories like that that are going around that I plan on getting out there through media and social change. Social change is something that's been going on in this world forever. Social change happened when the man left the cave, because there was a family of them in the cave and they're all there. No, you leave the cave there, that's it. It's over. It's doomsday if you leave the cave. So one of them ended up bumping into someone outside the cave and decided to leave the cave himself. And he came back 2 years later and he told everyone in the cave. He came back with riches and golds and everything. And they said, where have you been and this and that? I said, I've been out there and I've been there and I've been there. And he said, it's time for you to come now. So that was it. That was the beginning of social change. They left the cave and they got out there, so they did. Now, social change has been controlled by the media for the past 5,000 years. May it be letters, people shouting on stages like this, or if you spoke against your king, you were going to get your head chopped off. It was as simple as that. Now, I see that has all changed, because in the past 29 years, the internet has landed on our feet. And it's given us a voice, and it's given us a platform to get out there and spread the word and speak up against these governments and stop them from controlling us. Governments are shaking all over the world. They're not going to tell you they're shaking, but they are shaking all over the world, because now in the past 10 years, the amount of social change since we got our smartphone into our hands and we became smart for ourselves. We were able to educate ourselves. We were in school and we weren't getting educated. Quick story. Abby, I was telling Abby about Michael J. Fox last night. She said she studied him in school. I said, what did you find out? Well, that he had Parkinson's disease there, and that he just made a miraculous recovery through belief of fixing himself. I fucking went cracked. I was fucking, Jesus fucking Christ, I said. How dare you? You know, I said, she tell you how he done it, like, that he's an advocate of anything? And she goes, no. She didn't say he was the main advocate of cannabis in America and that he's up on a platform speaking all the time. No, it was a miraculous recovery. So this is what they're teaching our kids. And thank God we have a media platform now that's going to change that. I've set up a new media platform, Weed Media, I'm going to call it. It's going to be a podcast that I'm going to have guests on, like me, and with their stories, like all of you. Any of you there that have your stories with cannabis, there's a few of you in the crowd there, so there is. I invite you all on to tell the story, because the more stories we tell, that's how we're going to get our voices out there. We could go and march on the streets and we can go kick down doors and all that. That's not going to do that, and we're gone past that. In this day and age, that stuff doesn't work. It's all about the voices. And as I said, we have the biggest platform in the world now for getting our voice out there. So lads, use it. Use it. A lot of people don't. So I'm going to wrap it up at that. Thanks for listening to me shaking and me nervousness, and I'm fucking delighted I'm getting down now.
Adrian Mckenna, folks, big round of applause. Brilliant. We have time we'll take one or two quick questions. Anyone a question for Adrian?
Thank you, Adrian, for your talk. I have just a question about once it's legalised and we don't want the big pharma to get their hands on it, what's the solution? What do you want to see in Ireland? Cooperative or... You know,
what I want to see is markets. What I see going on up in Kilkenny at the moment there is farmers have been struggling because of the way that the big industrial farmer has come in and is wiping out the fellas that has 20 or 30 cows or keeps a few sheep or whatever there, or he grows his own bit of stuff there. So what they've done is they've all amalgamated together up there, and they've created a market every Thursday where they do their own efficient growing and bring it together there and they sell it, and it's proven that it's working up there. So it's keeping it within the community, and it's keeping it organic, and you know that you're getting your eggs from Tom down the road, and you know that you're getting your broccoli from Mary. It's a good structure, and I reckon that cannabis should go the same. I reckon that we should keep it within our communities, that we should grow our own, and that I don't think that the doctors should rule it, to be honest. I think that the people that are studying it now, that are far more advanced in it, are the people that should take it over, and they're the ones that should drive the seat in it there. And as I said, I think it's a case of keeping it between the communities and keeping it between the farmers.
One more question.
Thanks.
Thank you.
From what I hear, Canada isn't leading the way. Canada seems to be leading the way. Yeah, it's legal there, but what seems to be happening is the big boys are taking control. Basically, it's highly regulated. They can irradiate the weed in Canada. They're allowing pesticides and spraying. So, I mean, any health benefits are wiped out completely from they're closing down the small dispensaries, the independent dispensaries. So that's one issue. Legalizing is not necessarily a good thing.
No, decriminalizing is the way. It is. It's just, look, as I said, I set up the Facebook page and I put in that name and I went with it. But decriminalization is what we need to focus on here, because we cannot give the power to the farmer. No way can we give the power to the farmer. As you said, chemicals is all that's being put out. It's a drug is what they're putting out. You take the chemicals out of weed that's out there every day, that's putting this bad name on it there, that's giving us, there's 4,000 strains in the world here, and we're not getting the right strains. Each strain has its own medicinal use and its own purpose. But because we're getting the shit on the streets there that's pumped up with chemicals, it's a drug that we're getting. Time to times we're smoking it and we're out of our head on drugs. It's not what we want. We want the purest of stuff with absolutely zero chemicals in it that's going to work as our medicine. Because we don't want drug addicts in this planet, so we don't. We want to use the medicine that was God-given right there to help us. It's as simple as that.
Okay, folks. Another round of applause for Adrian. Well done.